We're looking at chapter 4 of our text, Interpersonal Communication. Chapter 4 deals with perceptions, and so far we've looked at the perception process, influences on perception, the common tendencies in perception, and lastly now synchronizing our perceptions. As you can tell so far, as we've looked at this chapter, that mismatched perceptions can interfere with the communication process. So what do we do? Well, some of the things we can do, first of all, is perception checking. Given the likelihood for perceptual errors, it's easy to see how you and I as communicators can leap to the wrong conclusions and make inaccurate assumptions about someone and the communication behavior. So the skill of perception checking provides a better way to review your assumptions and to share your interpretations. There are three parts to perception checking. First, a description of the behavior that you observed. Second, two possible interpretations of that behavior. And then third, a request for clarification about how to interpret that behavior. All right, for example, the text uses this one. When you stomped out of the room and slammed the door, that is the behavior. I wasn't sure whether you were mad at me, first interpretation, or just in a hurry, second interpretation. How did you feel? And that last part, how did you feel, is a request for clarification. So you can see how easy really perception checking is. It does take some extra time and effort, but in the end, it certainly helps us reduce communication problems and reduce interpersonal stress. So perception checking is a tool to help us understand others more accurately, instead of just assuming that our initial interpretation is correct. The goal of perception checking then is mutual understanding. So it's a cooperative approach to communication. It also signals an attitude of respect and concern for the other person, saying, in effect, I know I'm not qualified to judge you in any way, but help me interpret your actions. The straightforward approach of perception checking has the best chance of working in what the text refers to as low context cultures, one in which members value candor and self-disclosure. Candor and self-disclosure. So think of the West. When you think of low context cultures, Australian, Canadian, German, American, of course. High context communicators, on the other hand, are more likely to regard perception checking or this candid approach as potentially embarrassing, preferring less direct ways of understanding one another. So, how does perception checking help then? It clarifies meaning, but it also is a face-saving device, a face-saving way to raise an issue without directly threatening or attacking the other person. You can also build empathy. Building empathy. Perception checking can help us decode messages more accurately, but it doesn't provide enough information for us to claim that we fully understand the other person. And so we need to engage in the process of building empathy. So what is empathy? Empathy is the ability to recreate another person's perspective, to experience the world as he or she does from their point of view. Empathy has three dimensions. One involves perspective taking, and that is taking the viewpoint of the other person. So what this requires is for you to suspend judgment for a little while, set aside your opinions, and take on those of the other person. So that's a cognitive process. Or the second step to it is more affective in relation to our emotions, the affective dimension. So social scientists call this affective dimension emotional contagion. What this means is that we experience the same feelings that other people feel. We know their fear, joy, sadness, because we try to feel it as much as we can. The third part of empathy is a genuine concern for the welfare of the other person. We have an interest in their well-being. So it's good to differentiate between empathy and sympathy. And sometimes the two concepts are confused. They are different. With sympathy, you view the other person's attitudes and actions and situation from your point of view. With empathy, you view it from the other person's perspective. So, how do you go about experiencing empathy? Sometimes it's very difficult, especially with people who are radically different from you in terms of age, sex, socioeconomic status, culture, race. So in order to make this leap, in order to experience empathy with them, you must develop an open-minded approach. You must be willing to commit yourself to the process itself. So the best way to gain empathy for people whose point of view differs from yours is to interact with them and get to know them and live in their world in some way. Role-playing simulations can help you experience another person's reality. Empathy and ethics, the golden rule of treating others as we want to be treated, points to the clear relationship between empathy and the ethical principles that enable society to function as we do. All right, and that is this last part of chapter 4. Have a great day.